Howdy, cruisers. Getting ready to head out on my next epic summer road trip, Epic Summer Road Trip 2, in a few minutes. So I thought we'd have a little bit of fun answering questions from Reddit. Yes, Reddit Cruise. Actually, they do answer. They do ask some pretty interesting questions over there. So let's dive right into this. I have only read the question. I don't read any answers or anything like that. And I only put these together, well, not too long ago. So this will be real time. Oh boy, how about that? All right, so first question is, this is a good one, about the food shelf life. Something that I guess we probably never think of. On a 12-day cruise that is fairly remote, no easy place to restock all the types of food, how do they manage such a long or longer cruise where there would be food that is sensitive to going bad? Fresh sushi, tuna, steak tartare, thanks. Okay. It's very easy. There are cruises that are a lot longer than 12 days. There's cruises that are away from port for longer than 12 days. So the provisioning of these foods is actually fairly routine. You will find on the cruise ship there are a number of different stores, different temperatures for different types of food. And yes, there are plenty of cold stores or frozen stores that, store this stuff for extended periods of time. I find it interesting. They're asking about fresh sushi, tuna, and steak. These are actually often frozen even on land because, well, frozen keeps longer. And if they are properly flash frozen at sea, the difference is barely perceptible. So people often, expect like fresh fish and everything like that. But to have it flash frozen really makes no difference. So the cruise lines are very well versed at stocking for cruises of longer than 12 days. They just don't because it's easier to restock at port and they have to store less on board, which means more space for making money. So yeah, food shelf life, not really an issue. I would suggest, if you're interested, most cruises that I can remember actually do offer a talk that the head chef is invited to. So if you have any questions about this particular activity on the cruise, go to that talk and ask them, and they will explain the entire process to you, and they will be very happy to do so. Believe me. Next question. Let's see. What is this? Alaska Cruise Shore View. Love this one. Hi, all. My husband and I went on a cruise many years ago in the Caribbean. That's awesome. And I was not a fan. Oh, that's too bad. I had anxiety a lot. Okay, the boat was very rocky. Season does matter. But worse days for me were sea days. Oh boy, sea days are my favorite. Okay, but why? Like not seeing land for days. It just wasn't for me. Okay, I can kind of understand that, but my husband loved it and wants to take another cruise. Okay, I have heard that maybe on some cruises, like to Alaska, for example, okay, you're onto something here, you can see shore the whole time. Anybody have any info on this? I think if I could see a shore the entire time, that would help my anxiety a ton. Like if the boat sinks, I can swim. Okay, to the side, I know that sounds ridiculous, but literally my anxiety can't take being in the middle of the ocean and seeing nothing but water. Anyone have any cruise suggestions? Okay. Yes, you are onto something. Alaska is a great place to cruise if you like seeing land because you are almost never out of view of land. There may be one spot where it's very far away, a couple, maybe 20 odd miles, depending on where the ship is, but you can very often still see land off in the distance. And if the cruise is timed right, if I remember correctly, last year on Queen Elizabeth, this particular section was during an overnight passage, so it really wouldn't have mattered anyway. Cruising in and out of the ports, especially to the glaciers, and much of, I guess, the central panhandle of Alaska, where, Sitka is, you will be not only in view of land, it is literally right there, right? You can't reach out and touch it, but you can see houses, probably see people waving to you from shore. So yes, Alaska is a great place for this because, well, you are always very close to land. Now, whether or not you can swim to the shore, don't. No, you cannot. Do not try this, certainly. But even if there was an emergency aboard the ship, trying to swim ashore, even in the summer in Alaska, would be deadly, let's be honest, because the water is very, very cold. And while you might be able to see the shore, I don't even think, okay. What was it? Who was the big swimmer years ago? Greg Louganis? Yeah, he probably couldn't even make it ashore just because of the cold water. But if seeing land will make you feel better about your next cruise, Alaska is definitely the choice for you. Norway would probably also be a good choice as well, because there's never a reason for the ship to get that far from land. All right, here it is. Okay, I really didn't read these too closely. So, worth it to hit Maho Beach plane landing spot during a port day in St. Martin. All right, sailing on the Celebrity Beyond in a few weeks, and one of the stops is St. Martin. I know it's not everyone's idea of a top excursion. Well, actually it is. But I have always thought it would be awesome to check out the beach where the planes land overhead, Maho Beach. Yes, it is. Has anyone done this while in port on a cruise? I'm wondering if there is enough time to visit, hang out for a bit, and still explore some other parts of the island before heading back to the ship. Yes, this is exactly what I did. This is a while ago. Maybe this could be almost 10 years ago now. We were sailing on Norwegian Getaway or Escape. I don't really remember which one, but one of the stops was in St. Martin, and we all did want to go to Maho Beach. I particularly wanted to go there simply because this was right when I was sort of ending my business travel career, and I still wanted to see all the airplanes fly. And we all just hopped in a cab and went over to Maho Beach. Timed it absolutely perfectly by happenstance. When we got there, there were a couple of smaller aircraft landing, but then, off in the distance, I saw the blue dot, and it got closer and closer, and it turned out to be the KLM 747 from Amsterdam. So, yes, we got to see that big, beautiful bird fly right over us and then land. So, that timing could not have been perfect, but this is where I kind of I was shocked my friends or disappointed them. As soon as that happened, that was the big aircraft for the day, right? Nothing larger flies into St. Martin. So as soon as she landed and did a turnaround, I literally turned to them and said, okay, let's go. Because it's crowded. It is very crowded on this beach because everybody does have the same idea. And if you want to find a spot or whatever, you got to get there super, super early, and then you got to be prepared to commit to it and stay there. That would be my only caution about doing that. But yes, that is the place to go and see the aircraft. And if you want to just hang out there like all day and watch them fly overhead, absolutely. One thing you could do is check the inbound flight schedules at either Flight Radar or Flight Aware. See who is going to be landing at St. Martin and what time, and try and get there when some nice aircraft are landing. Plan your day around that. It worked out very well for us. I did not do any planning. After that, we left and went to the other very popular beach. I forget what it's called, but it's the one where there's half family, half adult, right? No, there are no pictures. And yeah, so that's how we spent the rest of the day on St. Martin. But yes, it is actually a pretty terrific experience. So take a cab over there, watch the aircraft for a while until that becomes boring. I mean, they're just aircraft flying overhead. You can get that almost anywhere. And yeah, then you'll have plenty of time to do something else during the day. Next up, let's see. Any reason you might choose Holland or Princess Cruise for a gay guy in their 30s? Okay, let's see. Just wondering, at the end of my work season in Alaska, I think I'll get a choice to get a free cruise with either of these cruise lines. I could probably work for Carnival Corporation. Not sure where I would choose to go. Seems like a lot of options, but I figured I'd ask. As the title says, there's a reason you might choose one over the other for someone like me. No, actually, between Princess and Holland, flip a coin. That's what I would do. There's no real reason to choose one over the other unless there's some specific activities that happen on one cruise line that you like over the other. But since they each have different activities, there would not be any particular one that says do this versus this. One thing to be aware of, I think the actual experience on Princess and Holland is going to be pretty similar in the popular destinations like Alaska or in the Caribbean. So, you get a free cruise. Maybe it's corporate sponsored. I don't know if they would expect you to pay for the upcharges, but if they include Princess Premier, then maybe choose Princess because that's actually a better program than Holland's Have It All. But if you have to buy up into one of these things, then just look at the price of Have It All versus Princess Premium or Princess Plus or Princess Premier. See which one works for you. That might be a deciding factor. But in terms of onboard activities, the ships and everything like that, the Princess ships will probably be larger, especially if they're like the not the, well, okay, the Royal Princess. If it's the Royal class, those would definitely be larger than the ships Holland has. But in terms of the atmosphere and the crowd, whether or not, they're into partying or whatever, probably going to be about the same. So if I were given this option, yeah, I think flipping a coin would be just as good, right? All right, next, let's see. Ooh, yes, good one. Will Carnival's new changes affect other lines for the worse? Recently, with all the changes that Carnival Cruise has been making, should I be concerned that other cruise lines will follow suit? We've seen this with other industries, airlines, for example, and I know what a ship show flying is nowadays. Yes, Spirit Airlines. Yeah, we all know. Okay. Yeah, I have actually flown Spirit a couple of times, but it's not that bad. So I presume they're referring to the changes that Carnival's making with respect to the music and the dances and the fans, which, by the way, I finally figured it out. Yes, I finally figured out what to look for to understand what the whole thing with the fans is. I get it. I don't think I've ever seen this, by the way. Well, my last Carnival Cruise was almost 2 years ago, and it was last year, Carnival Frenzy, but they weren't doing that on Firenze. So yeah, I finally get what the fans and the boots thing is, but that's beside the point. No, because let's be honest, the other cruise lines really don't need to do this. They don't. Carnival has this reputation for a reason, and they're the ones dealing with, well, the consequences of their prior decisions. Every cruise line does have a different vibe. It attracts a different audience, and those different audiences behave in different ways. Well, let's be honest about that. So, no, Carnival is making this because they are Carnival. That's it. This is not a cruise industry-wide problem. This is a Carnival problem, and they are addressing it, and I don't think anybody else is going to really do anything, because I don't think I've ever seen any of these like line dances or like boots on the ground on any other cruise line. They might do it, but if you remember, the last couple of Royal Caribbean sail away parties have been rather not much. Like even on Icon of the Seas, Utopia of the Seas, they were just kind of like, eh. Norwegian's sail away party, they were in the video a couple weeks ago. Nothing like they do on Carnival. They don't have the room to do it, so they can't do line dances. Okay, maybe that's intentional. Could it have been intentional? That's a great question. And then, of course, the king of all sail away parties, Disney. Really? Not even close. So no, this is a Carnival problem, and Carnival is making these changes for themselves. I don't think anybody else is going to really do anything else because they don't have to, right? Next up, let's see. Caribbean cruises not out of FLA, Florida, I imagine. Okay. Are there cruises to the islands not sailing from Florida? Do not want to give a dime to that state if I can avoid it. Okay. Well, I'll just be honest as a Floridian. Bye. We probably don't want you either. So I think this is going to work out. Go ahead. Sail out of New York. There are 8 to 10 day cruises on both Royal Caribbean and a couple of other cruise lines that, oh my, they come to Florida. Interesting. You could also sail out of Texas. Huh. Oh well, just an example of what being closed-minded gets you. Anyway, next, let's see. Are 2-day cruises terrible? My partner gets quite anxious flying. You know what? I don't really like it anymore either. But I've always been put off by the idea of going on a cruise instead. So we booked a 2-night cruise with my partner to try and see if we liked it before committing to something longer and more expensive. But now I've seen that they're called booze cruises. Oh boy. Is it just going to be full of loud people drinking? We don't even drink alcohol. I was hoping to just tour the one town it stops at and enjoy the food and shows. I booked a big ship because I get motion sickness on other vehicles, so I thought it would be less. I thought it would move less. Okay, so let's unpack this just a little bit. The only regular 2-day cruises that I am aware of are on Margaritaville Paradise. Not necessarily a big ship. I think we all know that. But since she only crosses the Florida Strait on a 2-day cruise over to Grand Bahama, the motion is probably not that bad. What they usually do, at least in my experience, is they head right across and then just park off of Freeport for the rest of the evening, where it's usually pretty calm. So I'm not really going to worry. I don't think she should worry about that, or this person should. Her husband, yes. I don't think anyway, I don't think this person should worry about that. Is Margaritaville a booze cruise? Well, they try and make it a booze cruise. They do try and sell a lot of liquor on that cruise, so I think that will be the case. And as for exploring Grand Bahama, okay, I'm going to say it this way. If you are sailing on Margaritaville Paradise, it's a great cruise. Enjoy the food. It can be very fun. You don't have to drink. You definitely don't. Enjoy the shows. They are great. But I've said this before. It's a great starter cruise, but in a number of different ways, it's also a good cruise for pro cruisers because we kind of know what we're getting into. If you really want just the most average cruise experience, what I say, you should probably book a Royal Caribbean cruise on maybe one of the Freedom or Voyager class ships out of either Port Canaveral or Fort Lauderdale or Miami or wherever they go from. It's still a booze cruise, but it's less of a booze cruise. Not Utopia of the Seas. That can be a bit overwhelming, but oh boy. Good luck. I love Margaritaville, and I hope you have a great time. Last question. Oh boy, I might not read this whole thing, but solo versus group cruising. Hi, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on solo cruising. If you've done it, do you prefer it? And if you haven't, do you want to? Okay, there's a bit of story here. I just came back from a week-long cruise with a large group. I've done cruises before. My mom was cruise mate this time. Whatever. The one place, St. Thomas. Okay, you know what? Skip to the end. Anyway, even though I love cruising, I feel like I've never gotten the experience cruising the way I want. Haha, there you go. Does anyone else feel like this? And for you solo cruisers, do you prefer it? Okay, my preferred cruise, right? My preferred cruise scenario would be to cruise on the same ship with friends. And I mean that very, very specifically. In terms of like just the people, the cruise experience, solo versus cruising with somebody, that best experience was years ago on Norwegian Escape, where, one of my friends was doing a big family event, and they say, hey, come along. So I booked a solo studio, but they had their family things to do, and which I was not really expected to be a part of, which means, which meant that I was essentially a solo cruiser on the same ship with a bunch of friends. And that worked out perfectly, right? There were no expectations of doing things as a group, which you would have if you're actually traveling with friends or with family, right? Somebody, Aunt Karen, is going to expect you to do everything, with the group. But in this particular scenario, no. I was off doing my stuff during the day or in port, and then, in the evening when let's be honest, the older members of the family were getting ready for bed, that's when the friends would group up and we would, stay out enjoying the late night activities on the ship. So if you can engineer something like this, just being on the same ship with friends, or even if it's like like an industry group or something, that might work out best because you have freedom, but you also have people to sort of pal around with. However, if you do want to have a few options, Norwegian, again, does have the best solo program. You are a solo, everybody's going to know you're a solo, but if you go to the solo meetups, you might make a few cruise friends that you can pal around with if you want to, right? Since you meet at a solo group, nobody's going to expect you to, do everything always together, right? So if you do want to do certain things solo, that's kind of part of the deal, but like I said, you might meet some people that would be fun to just have dinner with, or, go see a show together, or whatever. So if you want a great blend of solo versus, dealing with other people, that might be quite nice, do look at Norwegian and their solo program. That might be a great compromise if you can't simply, engineer the cruise on the same ship with friends. Yes, as a solo cruiser, I find those two scenarios to be probably the most fulfilling and entertaining and fun. So, yeah. But definitely, do try solo cruising as an experience. If you don't like it, you just don't do it again, really. You'll learn about cruising and probably learn something about yourself. So there you go. Well, that was how many questions from Reddit? Oh my God, that was like 8 questions. Oh, wow. We've gone a long time. Okay, I have to get ready and head out for Epic Summer Road Trip number 2. So if you happen to be on Carnival, yes, I have a Carnival Cruise coming up. We're going to Celebration Key. I know, how fun is that going to be? So if you do happen to be on board, maybe I'll see you there. Or if there are questions you want us to talk about, or if there's any other things that you want us to talk about, go ahead and leave them in the comments below after you subscribe. I should have said this earlier. I know. Oh, you know what? Yes, go ahead and subscribe. Help me get to 3,500 subscribers so then I can start bugging you about 4,000 subscribers. And when that happens, I'm going to start bugging you about 5,000 and then 10,000, okay? Right? So if we're going to be if we're going to be the queen of CruiseTube, come on, we got to get those numbers up. So yeah, if you want me to talk about anything else, just go ahead, leave it in the comments below, and maybe we will talk about it on a future edition. It's been a long video. I know. On a future edition of Under the Covers.